Welcome back to the Gridiron Grind with Andrew and Lance. Today, we're going to talk about, we've been mentioning it for a while. Um, there's a certain well-known NFL analyst out there that has spread out his top like 40 quarterback rankings and how bad it was. But we're not even going to really talk about his rankings. We're going to do our own. We're going to do our own top 10 quarterback rankings. We think that's going to be a lot of fun. But first, we have to talk about some crazy news, and that's more with Brendan Sorsby. It's the gift that keeps on giving, basically. So last time we talked, we mentioned that Texas Tech and college football, they weren't letting him back in. They're saying, no, you can't join us. So he decides to put in for the supplemental NFL draft. Cool. It's really his only option. And then lo and behold, NFL's like, nah, we don't want that smoke either. So they denied his thing. And then after that, he tried to go to the CFL and they were like, we're good. We're good as well. You could just go away. So it sounds like Brendan Sorsby has no other option but to sit this year out and see if he can even enter the 2027 draft, which is just crazy. The situation just never ends. There's more details that I've learned a little bit going through, but what's your thoughts, Lance, on this Brendan Sorsby just drama-filled week?
It's crazy, man. I thought there for a split minute the NFL was actually going to let him go into the supplemental draft.
Hmm.
Um, the part that's hilarious to me is that the NFL has bent on sexual assault, has bent on marijuana possession, has bent on
Hmm.
aggressive,
That was one
you
of the
know,
points I was going to touch on too. Yep.
all these issues they've bent on. But gambling, there's a bright red
Hmm.
line apparently where they're like, absolutely not. Um,
Hmm.
which I think to some degree is semi-understandable. You don't want to undermine the integrity of the game, and therefore
Hmm.
they're saying no, you can't. But I think the NFL should just have a policy moving forward that if you're going to escape punishment and try to come to the NFL to continue your career, it's an automatic no. I think that that would be
Hmm.
a better policy to have moving forward, because then that way you treat everyone the same. It doesn't need to be subjective. It should be objective and just say, if you're going to be coming to us because you're trying to escape punishment, no, it's an automatic no for us.
Hmm.
Um, I think that'd be better. I don't think that will make that policy change, just because of the fact
Yeah.
that, you know, it's the NFL. But I give them credit on this one. They made the right decision on this situation. And um, by the way, one thing I would say on this issue that we need to give props to. If it wasn't for the Big 12, this would have never happened.
That's a fair statement because Texas Tech was like, yeah, come on back. There was a lawyer apparently there that was, I think, an alum of Texas Tech. So, of course, or not a judge, I mean. So, of course, he was like, yeah, I rule in favor of Sorsby. But, but yeah, the Big 12 was like, yeah, we don't want this drama. This is going to be a bad look for us. So, the answer is no. So, yeah, credit to them.
Because I mean, if they didn't put their foot down, Sorsby was going to play for the Big 12, and
Hmm.
or I should say, play for Texas Tech in the Big 12. So
Hmm.
I give the Big 12 a lot of credit. And you know, I really wonder how many other conferences would have had the spine to weather that. I mean, maybe
That's
they would,
fair. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
some of these colleges might have made lifelong enemies by choosing to say no to the big to Texas Tech. But the way I look at it is, congrats Texas Tech on being the school you are today, right? I think they're top three in spending right now in college
Yeah.
football.
Yep.
Um, and so they can kind of be perceived as a powerhouse, as someone you have to have. I don't think so. Go ahead and leave. You could replace them with anybody. Memphis, Boise State. There's plenty of other teams you could have thrown in the Big 12. I think the Big 12 survives. Um, there's no school that was, too big to
Hmm.
have to be worried about the consequences. So long term, I think it's better for the Big 12 that they did it. So I give them huge props.
Yeah, to your point of if Texas Tech had to be kicked out, OU and Texas, they're two powerhouses left, and they're still fine. They're still chugging along, doing their
Yeah.
thing. Um, the one part that I'm a little like on the NFL deciding this, there's some stuff that I heard from someone who's close to the college football game. A guy I follow a lot. His name is Thor Nystrom. I've mentioned him before, but he was hearing some details about the timeline of this. So apparently, um, the document that Sorsby was given from the NFL based stated things like, you submitted this like super
3 days.
late.
Hmm.
Yeah, and there wasn't like enough data onto why you're submitting it. Those are a couple of the main reasons why they said no, along with the rest of the stuff going on. That was mentioned in there as well, sure. But the two main ones were it was close to the deadline and there wasn't enough information. Well, according to the supplemental draft policy, all you need to do is submit it by the date. It doesn't matter if it's literally the day before. The policy states submit it by this date, and it doesn't even ask for a reason. It literally doesn't. It just says submit your paperwork by this date. And the NFL goes and says the reason why they said no was it was too close to the deadline and you didn't give us a good reason. That's nowhere stated in the policy. So I'm completely with you that it was the right decision to say no. But I think this is just a scapegoat because technically in the policy, I also say that they can say no to it's their prerogative to say no. But the reasoning was awful. And Sorsby asked about this apparently like back in March. He asked the NFL what the supplemental draft policy was. And so he had that in his back pocket. He did his due diligence. He did the process correctly. And the NFL just said no basically because they didn't want to have that drama, of course. Again, it was the right call, but just the way they went about it. And like you said, you can't pick and choose your battles. You can't say yes to drugs, yes to violent affairs, to hitting your spouse, and to driving fast like Rasheed Rice does, getting all this people hurt. You can't say yes to that and then no to this when every other ad during your NFL games is gambling websites. It it
Well, and I
It's
think that
I don't like it.
I think that a very simple policy the NFL should roll out is, if you get in trouble with law enforcement, it's a minimum of X games.
I love that. No matter what the situation is, I love that. But they just don't do that.
But the reason why they don't want to do it is because owners are afraid of how many games they'll lose because of the policy. And that's the part that makes it
Mm-hmm.
so short-sighted is
Mm-hmm.
you should want your players to be accountable. You should want your players to be
Amen.
better. So let me give an example. Um, it's a small example and it's not really something that's been heavily involved with law enforcement. But Jalen Carter coming out from college was known
Mm-hmm.
for getting into a speed race. Ended
Yeah.
badly, didn't go well. But the Eagles, I think, with that situation and combined with this concern of the Spitgate issue last year and some other character issues, are intentionally not paying Jalen Carter because they're trying to teach him a lesson. They're trying to teach him, no, we are the ones that gave you a chance.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to push us around. Players need to be held accountable. They need to be held to a
Absolutely.
high standard. Um, because if you bend the knee and do it, I mean, there's so many examples we could look at. Jamarcus Russell, he comes to the NFL, and it's not necessarily a drug issue, right? Or a criminal issue, but a discipline issue. Absolutely. You handed the guy
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of cash, guaranteed cash, and did it work out to the betterment of your team? No, it was an awful decision. Sam Bradford, a good guy that never proved anything. Was it good to give him a large amount of money guaranteed? No, it was not a good idea. He never ever became the player that he promised to become. And you could say that was injury, but I think that at the end of the day, there's a reason why the NFL has fought so hard on fully guaranteed contracts. And that's
Mm-hmm.
because players, you don't act the same way when something's fully guaranteed. It's like that analogy, right? Of if you gift someone a vehicle versus if they pay for it themselves, how different will they act with the vehicle if they're paying for their
Sure.
own tires or if they're paying for their own things? And so that's why I think, like, with this policy when it comes to the NFL, that they really just need to come with a minimum, something fair, three
Hmm.
games, 4 games. I don't care what it is, but just put in a red line that's basic that moving
Black and white.
forward,
Yep.
this is what at the very minimum it's going to be.
I
And
agree.
but here's the problem is that um, we could pick up the NFL, right, and they deserve to be picked up. They deserve to be given the hard time. But you know who also is a big part of this equation? The players union. The players union will absolutely fight that to the
Yep.
very bitter end. And I think the players should get behind it. Yeah, absolutely. I don't
Hmm.
care about the outliers. I care about following the policy. And if you get in trouble with the law, that is an incredibly high bar to reach. I'm not talking about getting thrown in jail for a day. I'm talking about Rasheed Rice, right?
Hmm.
Like you get in trouble with the law last year and you somehow get off easy. I don't know how he
Hmm.
got off with what he did, but now he ends
Yep.
up in jail for a month. Are you seriously going to just let this guy play again with no consequence?
I know. I know.
I don't understand it.
I'm right there with you. There needs to be some kind of black and white policy where, like you said, the players union and the NFL come together and agree on, and somewhere in the middle that they both decide on because you can't pick and choose your battles like this. And what is really interesting is what Brendan Sorsby is going to do next. So it's a very, very small chance. But again, Thor was describing that this possibility he was reading, and if this happens, this would be hilarious. I don't think it's going to, but Brendan Sorsby does have the option to fight this. So he already went to the players union to try to fight it, but of course he's not a player, so they can't really work with him.
Right.
Only other thing he could do is again go the legal route and sue to the decision because, like I said, he talked to the NFL before. He got the rules. He followed the rules, and they said no, saying you didn't follow the rules. That is incorrect. Now, again, in that policy, it states that the NFL has the right to say no. And so I don't think there's any way he could win this. But if he got the right lawyer and the right judge, or kind of like he did last time with Texas Tech, um, he could fight this. And what's really interesting is if he wins, again, I think it's like 1% chance, but he could be allowed to be a free agent instead of entering any kind of draft since the supplemental draft's already passed. If he gets the legal way to go about this, that the NFL did him incorrectly, he could technically enter the NFL as just a free agent, and any team could pay him. That'd be crazy. I would hope that doesn't happen. I would hope if that is actually a thing, that every NFL team would say no. What the NFL basically should have done is they should have said, okay, you can enter the supplemental draft, but you're suspended for this entire 2026 season. That'd been completely fair. That's in a way that they backhanded their way into that, but the way they did it is kind of legally not right. Outside of that topic I mentioned, that they have the right to say no to any supplemental draft, but just the reason they gave isn't correct, and they should have just said, "All right, any team who wants to draft him, whatever you want to submit, just know 2026 he's suspended for the entire year."
Maybe part of the reason they did it the way they did was fear of retribution from the NCAA.
Yeah,
Because if you think about
it
it,
was a big win for the NCAA. The NCAA is like,
eh,
"Yes, thank you NFL for not letting that happen."
right? But I mean, the way that they allow players in the NFL, the NCAA can make the path harder. They don't have to make it easier. They don't have to
Hmm.
allow people. I mean, it used to be right. You had to be a senior. You had to finish all the way through your time
Hmm.
at a university to be able to go into the NFL. And so the NCAA has laxed that to make it easier for players to transfer or transition from college to the NFL. And so I
That
wonder if there's
rule actually just got changed like last week. I don't know the exact details, but I don't know what it is, but it's something like you only have a certain amount of time you can play in college now. There's no more like red shirting for 3, 4 straight years. Nothing like that. It's interesting. I don't know the exact rules, but that literally just got passed, and it's another big win for the NCAA, I think. But continue.
But I'm just saying that, they can make it harder. They could choose to,
Hmm.
yeah. So anyway, there's a lot of moving parts, and I do think it's interesting. The one thing I would say though is that my guess is that it's got to be like a 0.01% chance that he wins the case because one, he's
For
not a
sure.
player.
Yeah.
So they're going to
Hmm.
say that he's fighting to become eligible to be a part of the rules when he's not
Hmm.
actually part of the rules. And then
Yeah.
the other part is that typically in law cases I've reviewed both in my undergraduate time and my master's time, if there's any deference or any subjectiveness in the policy, it
Hmm.
goes back to the creator of the policy.
Sure.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. There's still a door open. I do like that idea, though. I wonder why they didn't just suspend him for the season.
That's a simple way to avoid like that's meets in the middle. It avoids any of this drama, but it still kind of leans into the NCAA, their decision. And you can say, sure, you can enter in, but you're not getting paid for the season at all. You're suspended for the entire year, and you're on a strict probational period kind of thing, to where if there's any other incident, you're suspended indefinitely. You cannot play for us. Somewhere along those lines. But instead, they just like, nah, we don't want to mess with that right now. It was kind of a cheap way to get out of it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's so weird, though, this whole situation. And I can't believe this was the hill that Texas Tech wanted to die
Hmm.
on. I mean, Sorsby's not even that great of a quarterback. At the best, he's a, meh, like okay quarterback. So very surprising all around. Super strange
Yep.
situation. But at the end of the day, it was the right call. And
I agree.
yeah, the one thing I will say is that I look at gambling. I used to honestly be in the boat where I thought gambling was fine. I think it was,
Mm,
fine for the NFL to promote it, but with how much people have been unable to control their appetite with
mm,
gambling, I think my mindset has changed. I think that this is turned into a Pandora's box, and I think the NFL and
hmm.
other leagues are going to, in the long term, regret how heavily they have pushed for gambling.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, though, for especially for the NFL, I think NBA's in this boat as well. Is those gambling websites like DraftKings and all those guys, they pay them so much money to get in their commercials. So I don't think that's ever going to end. They're always going to be promoting it. But I do agree that the players should not partake because it's a slippery slope that you're going to bet on your own team and then you're going to try to fix the outcome in a way so you can win it. It's a very slippery slope if the
Well,
players partake in it.
the part that's interesting that I can't tell for the facts I've read from Sorsby is, was there any time that he was tempted to change the outcome of a game because of his gambling? I mean, the one thing that we just know from his history is the gambling was extensive, but we don't know
Hmm.
how it affected his on-field play. And I think that's the part that's
Yeah.
like unsettling is, did it ever cross his mind? Did he ever
Hmm.
affect the way he played a game because of what he did? I mean, it was documented that he put bets on games that he played in, but it wasn't ever, explained or further
Sure.
analyzed how
Yeah.
how much it affected the day-to-day operation. So again, that's a super low bar. Like if that's
Hmm.
the hope you have, you got to set a higher standard. Then I agree with you that the players just need to not be a part of gambling.
Yeah. I mean, um, the cornerback that played for you guys and now is on the Vikings, Isaiah Rodgers, he was suspended for an entire year because of he got caught gambling within the facility. I don't remember if it was on the NFL, but it was within the facility of the team he was on. I think it was the Colts at the time.
Yeah.
Um, he got caught gambling, so they suspended him for an entire year. Great, awesome. Do the same thing for Sorsby because he technically didn't gamble while he was in the NFL. He did was in the NCAA, but follow that same trajectory. Say you're suspended for the entire year, and like I said, a very, very strong probational period to where if anything happens, you're gone. Not just another suspension. We're kicking you out of the league kind of thing. You have one chance.
And maybe too, that one of the reasons why they wanted to hold off was because they want to have the option to suspend him next year. Because if you suspend
Maybe
him now, you can't suspend him
2 year
later.
suspension. Yeah, like almost like a 2 year suspension. Yeah, I can see that.
So, that might be another reason they were thinking. Because I mean, they're still weighing out the case. This is still playing out. It's
That
not
is
been
true.
solved.
More details keep coming out. Yeah, that is true.
So
Um,
again, not justifying, just saying maybe that's another reason.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, should we transition from bad quarterback talk to good quarterback talk? Should we go into our top 10 quarterback rankings?
Yes. Can I just lead with one thing here?
Yes.
I know we said we're not going to heavily talk about the rankings, and I do agree that should not be the main point. But can we just acknowledge how silly this list was by Chris
Mm-hmm.
Sims?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm not even just talking about my quarterback, right? I just, for the life of me, I cannot understand the rankings in general. It's just, I mean, looking at some of these rankings here, right? Like JJ McCarthy, the 37th best quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Are you serious? Michael Penix is 5 spots higher than McCarthy. Like,
Yep.
seriously. What are some other good ones? Malik Willis is 19. Stop it. Stop it. Um,
So Malik Willis was ranked higher than Jalen Hurts.
Dude, it's unbelievable. CJ Stroud is ranked higher than Jalen Hurts. Daniel Jones is ranked higher than Jalen Hurts. Bo Nix is
Oh
ranked higher
man.
than Jalen Hurts. I
Oh
just
man.
it's
Uh, it's
Jacoby
laughable.
Brissett is literally 4 spots from Jalen Hurts. It
That's
just
just laughable.
Cam Ward is 23. What business does Cam Ward have being in front of JJ McCarthy, Kirk Cousins, even Mendoza at this point, I think might be able to argue that he should be in front of Cam Ward just because of the fact he had a better collegiate career. I
Hmm.
don't get Bryce Young is the 31st best quarterback. Yeah, 31st best quarterback. I just do not understand. It is absolutely amazing how
Hilarious.
asinine of a list this is. So thank you, Chris Sims, for inspiring me. I think my
Hmm.
list is way better for my 10, so I'm happy to do this, Andrew.
Well, let's dive right into it. I want you, because you're very passionate right now, and I love that. I want you to start us off from your 10 through 6. Let's start from the bottom, then I'll do my 10 through 6. Then you do 5 through 1, I'll do 5 through 1, kind of like that. Let's
Okay.
alternate like that.
You sure you don't want to do like every two? You want to do every, you want to do 10 through 6?
Or we can do every two, whichever one you want to go.
How about let's do every two? So I want to do 10 and 9, and then we'll
Okay,
flip to you
cool.
to do 10 and 9. Okay.
That works.
Before I lead off, I want to just clarify. I thought about a few things with my rankings. The first thing I thought about was playoff record.
Hmm.
The second thing I thought about was how good of a season they had the previous year. And the third thing I thought about was how likely are they to have a good season next year.
Sure.
So those three things factored into my thinking. And when I combined those factors, that's how I got to my list. So I know that some of our friends are going to be mad at what I came up with, but at number 10, I put Dak Prescott.
Okay. Okay.
And this is, looking at this was his stats last year. He had a 67.3 completion percentage rating. He had 4,500 yards passing. He had 30 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. And he has a 2-5 playoff record. So overall, I think very defensible. Um, I would put Dak Prescott higher if the playoff success was following. But I think
Hmm.
based off of last year alone, how he played, he's a top 10 quarterback. Um,
Hmm. He's on my
that's
top 10 as well. Yep.
that's how I would estimate it. Number nine, I put Jordan Love. Um,
Okay.
I think that Jordan Love is a better quarterback, and I know that you have your frustrations with Jordan Love, so I'm expecting you to share your thoughts. But I have continually been impressed by him, especially in playoff moments. The
Hmm.
Chicago Bears game last year, I would put 0% fault on him for losing that game. I think the
Hmm.
team played an awful game and that LaFleur did not come up with a good game plan, and they should have beat the Bears. They should have beat them. They had them. They just didn't finish the job. But he had a 66% passer rating, 3,300 yards passing, 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 1-3 playoff record. So still I think he's still growing. I think he could reach another level. So that's my 10 and 9.
Okay. Okay. The one thing, and you know, I truly don't think this is Packers hate by me, but I see a lot of Packers games, and Jordan Love, he throws too much off his back foot, way too much. And when he does, that's when those interceptions happen. Now, I do agree he's a really good player. He has potential to be better. I'm right there with you, but his tendency to just try and YOLO a ball, and I can't put in my top 10 for that. He's close. There were like three or four guys, like Trevor Lawrence's of the world, Jordan Love, Jared Goff. Those guys were like right there, but they didn't quite crack the top 10. But if we did top 15, I probably would have mentioned those names. So I understand where you're coming from. He just didn't quite crack it for me. Number 10 for me is a guy that's probably not on your top 10 because you're not a big fan of his, but the talent alone and what he's done in the regular season, I think puts him right at 10. Now, postseason, he's been bad. He needs to fix that. But that's Justin Herbert. I got him at 10. And I know you're just going to disagree with that, but the talent alone and his regular season success puts him at 10 for me.
Should we give him a talent alone MVP trophy?
No, not necessarily. And I would argue that not the last game, but there's been some games that weren't fully his fault. I mean, he had a huge lead against the Jaguars, and the defense just couldn't stop them in that playoff game. Come on, just win that game. And then he has a playoff win. It was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever that was. But Jaguars came storming back and won that game. So I have him a 10. Like I said, he barely cracked it. I would, and this is on who do I want on my team as well. And I would want Justin Herbert slightly above Jordan Love, just slightly. It's like splitting hairs, but that is my number 10. That at number 9, I have Brock Purdy.
Mhm.
So Brock
Okay.
Purdy, he hasn't had that huge playoff success, but he's always there. He's always in the playoffs. And I would argue that that season that the Eagles beat him when he got hurt, if he didn't get hurt, who knows what would have happened? Maybe they win. Maybe they don't. Maybe the Eagles still go to the Super Bowl. Who knows? But when he's injured and he's hurt, that team is a lot worse. Mac Jones did fine last year, but I think that was overblown. People are saying he's a great quarter. That was a little overblown. Mac Jones is fine. He's a good backup, but no one should be trading a third round pick for him. That's silly. But I think Brock Purdy has proven that it's not just the system. The system is a big factor, but also Brock Purdy's quick processing and decision making is also a big factor. So I have him at 9. So 10, Justin Herbert, 9, Brock Purdy.
I think it's important to point out for Brock Purdy, he has a 5-3 playoff record. And I know that the comment's going to be, I care about too much about the playoffs, but I don't see how you can't care. I don't see how
Mhm.
it doesn't matter. I don't see, like, an example I'll give. Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert were an awesome 1-2 duo in Utah.
Mhm.
But you know what the one complaint would be about Jazz fans? They never delivered in the playoffs. They could never
Mhm.
put it together. And there's nothing more frustrating. So I think it's absolutely justifiable to put Brock Purdy in the top 10.
So it sounds like he's not in your top 10.
Yeah, we'll get to mine, but I don't have
Okay.
him in there.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's my 10 and 9. All right. So you're 8 and 7.
Okay. 8 for me. I just, oh man. Dell, when you listen to this, be patient with me, buddy. But I've got Drake May at 8. Um, 72% completion rating, which is out of this world amazing. And I just want to put that
Mm-hmm.
out there. That was incredible. Like incredible.
Mm-hmm.
43, almost 4,400 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, a 3-1 playoff record. The part that I just can't get out of my mind is last year's schedule. I mean, it has to be acknowledged, Andrew. And
Yeah.
if they gave a better performance in the Super Bowl, this is not a narrative. It's not something that comes up. But they played
Mm-hmm.
so bad against the Seahawks, you can't help but wonder, was their schedule the reason they got to the Super Bowl? Was the schedule the reason that
Mm-hmm.
Drake May looked as good as he looked? And I'm
And
not
it
saying
didn't
he,
look good against the Texans either,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
just
I,
CJ Stroud looked worse.
yeah, I mean, the old CJ Stroud is just I don't understand that guy. I really
Mm.
that's a guy I would have loved to put in my top 10, but can't justify it. Can't put it
Oh
in there.
yeah. I don't even think he'd be my top 15 right now. Potential he could be there, but I don't know if I put him in my top 15. It'd be
Yeah,
close.
but I think that's fair. But I need more from Drake May. I need more to
Hmm.
to show that he can really do it. And I think this is my opinion. The reason why Drake May didn't win the MVP race last year, and it was splitting hairs, but I think it came down to schedule. I really do. I think the
Sure.
Chargers faced a tougher schedule, and so that's why that lone voter voted for Justin Herbert was because the fact that
Hmm.
he was
That was
impressed.
funny.
I mean, but it's fair though, because I wanted to put Justin Herbert in my top 10. I just can't get over the playoffs. I
Yeah.
just can't get over.
Yeah.
He hasn't had one. He's 0-3 in the playoffs. So anyway, I think Drake May has room to grow. I think he could be better. I just This is his year. Let's see how
Hmm.
he does with AJ Brown. Everyone's been everyone's been saying that Jalen Hurts is only good because of the system and because of the players around him. Well, now you got AJ Brown. Let's see how you do.
Hmm.
Let's see what you do with AJ Brown, Hunter Henry, um, and a decent running back cast. So let's see what you really do. Are you going to
Yep.
take it to the next level? Are you going to get close to 5,000 yards passing? Are you going to get 40 touchdowns passing? Or is it going to be the same effect? We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, it's tough, but he's definitely a top 10 quarterback. And I think if he gets another
Mm.
year the way he had it, will be a top 5 quarterback. That's my
Sure.
prediction.
Sure.
So moving on to number 7, I put Jalen Hurts here. Um, Now, Jalen Hurts' passing numbers are super similar to Jordan Love's, which is, he had 3,200 passing yards. He had a
Hmm.
64, almost 65% completion rating, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I didn't add the rushing numbers, but he has been number one in rushing touchdowns and one or
Hmm.
two in rushing yards every year for the past 4 years for quarterbacks. And I think for Jalen Hurts, when you look at his running ability and you combine it with his passing ability and you combine his playoff record, which is 6-4, he has to be a top 10 quarterback. Where you want to put him, I think is up for debate. If you wanted to say he was the 10th best quarterback, I'm there. If you want to put him at the fifth quarterback, I think that's a stretch based off last year, but I could see the argument for it. But I've put him at 7.
Okay. Okay. I like it. I like it. I think most of ours are going to be somewhat similar, just a little different position because at 8, I had Dak Prescott. You had him at 10, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but I have him at 8. I and it's more again of a regular season thing. He's been like the league leader in passing, or at least close to it, a number of years. And the offense he runs has been the best offense in the NFL a number of years. He has a ton of weapons. The offense was great last year. Outside of my Minnesota game, just saying we knocked him out of the playoffs. Our defense just shut him down. But I like him as a quarterback overall in the regular season. He does really well. Like you said, he's had some success in the playoffs, not enough. That needs to switch, but that just be could be a Cowboys curse because Cowboys haven't been relevant in the playoffs since the 90s. But he's still a really good quarterback, a great leader, Only problem is he's overpaid. I will always say that. He is overpaid. He should not be the highest paid quarterback in this league or even top five, honestly. If he's like 7 or 8, all right, that's fair. But he shouldn't be the top quarterback paid. But he is my number 8. Then at number 7, I have Drake May. Like I said, we're like right lockstep with a lot of this. Um, I think Drake May has potential, like you said, to be in the top 5 very soon. It's early in his career, which is crazy to think that he's already in our top 10 rankings. You have him at 8, I have him at 7. And I mean, he's 2 years in the league. He's only going to get better. Now, could the supporting cast get better or could it get worse? That's up for debate. Schedule, definite thing that we'll see how that goes. But as a pure quarterback, he's got all the tools. He's like a Justin Herbert with better leadership and decision making in crunch time kind of thing. Because he wins those games when Justin Herbert sometimes loses those games. But as far as just physical talent, they're like both the same guy. They're both a little athletic, more athletic than you anticipate, can use their legs a little bit. They both have a cannon of an arm. They can make all the throws. But I think Drake May has a little bit better leadership and a little bit better, like in the moment when it's really dependent on you play to win that game, as far as Justin Herbert hasn't done that yet, as is proven in the playoffs. So I have Drake May at 7.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's fair. And I like I said, I think most of these people can be played around. I think a couple of my people are going to be surprising for you, and it's fair. I
Okay. Looking forward to
understand.
it.
It's honestly the next two people. So do you want to just dive into it?
Let's do it.
Now, I just want to lead off. I factored in three things, right? I factored in playoff record.
Hmm.
I factored
Sure.
in last year. I factored in what could come next year. Because I think all three things, like, like for example, Aaron Rodgers had a good year last year, but there's a reason why he's nowhere close to my top 10 because I just don't believe that
Hmm.
there's anything left. I don't think he has anything left. I think this is a mistake by the Steelers, so he's nowhere near my top 10. And also, I'm not concerned about how he was. I'm concerned about how he's going to be, what potentially has to continue to become a better player. So, number 6, I put Jared Goff. And the reason
Interesting.
I put Jared Goff in there is I don't think that he's getting enough love for how good of a season he had last year. I think that the Lions had an
They missed the
incredible.
playoffs.
They did, they did, but I'm just saying you have to listen to
Last in the
this,
division.
Andrew. Don't do this. Don't
Last in
do
the
a
division.
don't do a barely
That's all
squeaking
I'm
into
saying.
third place and like tout this as like an amazing accomplishment. Yes, you came in third. Congrats, you beat the
Oh, I'm not
Lions.
saying I didn't say Minnesota had a great year. They had a bad year, but Detroit had a worse year. That's all I'm saying.
I think that Detroit had a bad year. I would not put it on Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff had issues, and I think he had contributed to parts of it. But when you have a 68% completion rating, 4,500 yards passing, almost 4,600 yards passing, 34 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, I don't think that you can put the season on the quarterback. I think there were other issues at play. I think that Dan had a bad year. I don't think he managed games well, and I think he made very poor decisions in critical moments that led games they could have won and turn them into losses. I think
Hmm.
that was more of a coaching issue. And I think it was also, we talked about this at the beginning of the year. We talked about how offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator could be issues for the teams or for the team. And I think by the end of the season, it was. I do think that coaching let down the Lions last year. And that is why they were not able to have a winning record to get in the playoffs. But factoring in next year, this looks like a path to be able to look like a top 10 quarterback for Jared Goff. The record is, or not the record, the schedule is way more
Schedule.
favorable. Now,
Hmm.
if we were going off of just playoffs, would I put Jared Goff at 6? No. I would put Drake May above him, and I would put Jalen Hurts above him.
You're going against your own thoughts then, because you said playoffs matter to you, like
He's
more
five
than
and
a lot of
five.
things.
He's 5-5 in the playoffs. So his
It's
playoff
okay.
record, no, 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 that's better than okay. That is a respectable record according to the like according to all quarterbacks, right? And let's say that have played at least 5 playoff games. he would be number 5 out of most starters in the NFL, maybe 6. The playoff record has to matter. I'm not going to put Aaron Rodgers in there. You could argue playoff record, I guess, for Aaron Rodgers. I'm sorry, no, that just doesn't work. He is
Hmm.
crisped, he is cooked. There's nothing left.
Hmm.
But that's not bad, man. I think Jared Goff gets a lot of hate, and if he did not have as good of numbers over the past couple seasons, I think it'd be harder for me to put him in there. But the proof is there. He can win with this team. Now, is he going to get them to a Super Bowl? I don't know, but that's not the question. Warren Moon was a top 10 quarterback when he played. Dan Marino was a top 10 quarterback when he played. And they were probably, Warren Moon was probably a cusp top 5 player or top 5 QB, maybe top 6, top 7. Dan Marino, same thing. Um, I'm trying to think of other good examples. Philip Rivers, like these are players that had
Hmm.
good careers, and maybe that's Jared Goff, as he is a Philip Rivers-esque player. Like he can't deliver the big moments, but he's good enough to keep you competitive and potentially get in the playoffs and make some noise. So that's what I put him at 6. Man,
Okay.
if you love my number 6, Andrew, you're gonna hate my number 5.
Oh boy. Are you saying a
I
certain Chicago Bears quarterback?
No, I could not put him in there. I think luck really
Okay.
paved. I
That's
luck
good.
luck paved the way for him. I have Trevor
Hmm.
Lawrence at number 5.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that.
But this is
It's
why
high, but I
I know
don't
it's
hate
high.
that.
I just think that the coaching changes pushed Lawrence to another level. We have not seen Lawrence play the way he played under previous coaches. He was fine under Peterson, and Meyer was a dumpster fire. But the current coaching setup has been a benefit to him. And I think that people are low key forgetting this guy had over 4,000 yards passing, um, which is really, really good. He had a 60.9 completion percentage, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and his playoff record was 1-2, is 1-2. But that Buffalo Bills loss, like, come on. If you're seriously going to knock him and give him a hard time about that
Hmm.
Buffalo Bills loss, you were not paying attention to that game. That was a very competitive back and forth game. And for the Jaguars, what an unfortunate draw to get the Bills in the first round. If they
Hmm.
had gotten almost any other team, I think they would move on to the second round. Texans, absolutely, they would have beat the Texans. Steelers would have beat the Steelers. So that's my number
I
5.
would say yes to the Steelers. I say it's a toss up for the Texans. That'd be a 50-50 battle because that Texas defense is ferocious. So that would have been
I
interesting. I'm with you with the Steelers. Texans, I would have had to think about that.
I don't know. I think the Jaguars by the end of the season became a different team.
Yeah, beginning of the season, Lawrence had like a 6-9 touchdown to interception ratio. It was awful.
Right? But then
And then they
it cut
flipped the
out.
switch. Yep,
It
they flipped the
stopped.
switch.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I almost had Lawrence and Goff like at 10. So I understand where you're coming from. I just I can't do that because Lawrence has been kind of like a roller coaster ride too long. He's not consistent enough to be that high for me. And you know my stance on Jared Goff. He's a good quarterback, but he's never going to win the games that you need him to. The supporting cast can win it and he can get the ball to him, but he's not going to be the reason why they win. That's always been my stance because he's like a he's like a name brand Kirk Cousins, basically.
I
Kirk
think
Cousins is an off brand.
I think that he's a little better than that comparison. But I mean,
Well, I said name brand. So like the great like Kirk Cousins is like a great value version of Jared Goff. They're
no,
both
I
not mobile, decent arms. They can get the ball where they need to get the ball. They're smart, but you can't
I
depend on them to win the game.
I think Philip Rivers is a far better comparison.
Okay, that's fine.
You could say he's an off-brand Philip Rivers, and I would agree with you there. But I think he's better than Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins gets way too much credit for his career. I don't hate Kirk
No, I
Cousins,
agree. I agree. That's
but
why I'm saying Kirk Cousins is the great value version of Jared Goff,
I still feel like
the
that's too much
discount
of a
version.
comparison, and I
Okay,
still feel like that's
that's
too.
fine.
He's the Timu version. If you want to say the Timu version, then sure, we can go Timu.
Okay,
That's fine.
I'm cool with
But
that.
I just mean like. Like for example, for Timu, my father-in-law bought these weird bucket things that you could sit on at a beach and also used for like making a sandcastle. It broke within the first hour of being at the beach. So that's what I mean by Timu. That's exactly what Kirk Cousins does for you.
4th and 8, baby. 4th and 8. Let's check him down for 2 yards.
For the record, and the reason why I had to push back on the narrative about great value is go buy great value cheese, compare it to other cheeses. The difference is not substantial.
Okay. Okay. I can respect that. I can respect that. Um, well, you're gonna like my number 6,
Okay.
Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
And that's only because of his Super Bowl success or his Super Bowl play.
I
Because
agree
against
with
the
you there.
Chiefs, he outplayed Patrick Mahomes, and then he's got a Super Bowl win. If he didn't have a Super Bowl win, he probably wouldn't crack my top 10. He probably like 12, something like that. Because lately, his just pure passing, his running definitely helps a great floor. But it's just pure passing, which we can say it's not all his fault. Absolutely. There's drops. OC is awful, but his numbers passing have been bad the past couple of years compared to other quarterbacks in this top 10.
I
But
hear you.
his legs, and he's got a Super Bowl ring. Who else that we've mentioned so far has Super Bowl ring? Nobody. Nobody. Nobody on this list that we've mentioned so far has Super Bowl ring. But Hurts does. So that gets him up there. He's 6 for me. And then just above him at number 5, this guy also has Super Bowl ring. Matthew Stafford. And he would have gotten a Super
Really?
Bowl ring last year if not for a back and forth game with the Seahawks, and the Seahawks pulled it out. Congrats to them. But Rams would have beaten the Patriots. I don't think you would argue that. So, and he was the MVP last year, and he's proven time and time again that he is legit the guy. He is a great passer of the ball. He understands every defense. He's been in this league a long, long time. He was just stuck in a bad Detroit Lions history and team for a long time that he couldn't get out of. And the second he goes to St. Louis or now LA, gets a Super Bowl. And then past few years, he's been this close every single year. Little thing goes a different way, he might have another Super Bowl ring. So Matthew Stafford is my number 5. And I wanted to get him higher, but the top 4, I just couldn't put him above.
That's interesting. I'm curious who your other quarterbacks are. Um,
It's kind of chalky. I'll just admit that. It's kind of chalky, my top 4.
but I mean, Matthew Stafford is definitely a top five quarterback, for sure. And should I just go ahead and go to my four and three?
Go for it. Let's do it.
Number four, I put Joe Burrow.
Okay.
Um, I want to put Joe Burrow higher. This is one thing I'll say about quarterback rankings that I feel like people get wrong all the time. And I forgot to add this in there. But you also have to add in reliability, dependability, you know,
Injury, yeah. Yeah.
and that's really what I'm getting.
Absolutely.
And
Hmm.
for the past few years, Joe Burrow has had injury issues. It's just
Can't disagree with that.
it's a fact. And it doesn't
Hmm.
matter how good of a quarterback you are if you cannot be out there and be available, can't rely on you. Like for example, Matt or Sam Bradford, right? Sam Bradford, by the time he got to Minnesota, actually became a half decent quarterback. But by the time
Hmm.
he became a half decent quarterback, he was injured all the time. So you
Yep.
couldn't rely on him. You couldn't depend on him to deliver you victories, and therefore it hurt his ranking, and ability to be recognized by the league. So Joe Burrow does have a 5-2 playoff record. He's also been to a Super Bowl and came super
Hmm.
close to beating Matthew
Oh
Stafford.
yeah. So close. Yep.
Um, but at the end of the day, who beat who? Matthew Stafford beat Joe Burrow. And that's one game. But I think that Matthew Stafford has honestly looked pretty good compared to other quarterbacks on this list. So I got him at number three.
Okay.
Um,
Totally fine with that. Yeah.
and I
I have
I
one guy
think
on here that you're gonna super disagree with. I can't wait.
is it Sam Darnold?
No. No. Keep going.
Okay, all right. But I think that Matthew Stafford had an incredible year last year, and I'm
Absolutely.
I'm really happy he won MVP. I think that
Hmm.
truly he deserved it. And Also, I just have to say this. This came up in our chat, and it just needs to be discussed. Quit telling me how supporting cast determines whether or not you deserve to be in the MVP discussion or greatest discussion. It
Hmm.
is such an asinine argument. It's so dumb to me. Um, Peyton Manning had Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison as his receivers. Both are Hall of Fame wide receivers, in case anyone's not aware. Because he played with Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison, should he not be given credit for his Super Bowl with the Colts? Should we just take that
One
away
might
from him?
argue, one might argue that he helped them be Hall of Famers.
Right. And so it's like I just Terry Bradshaw played with Lynn Swan and Stallworth. I think it's John
Hmm.
Stallworth. Should we take away
Hmm.
his Super Bowls? Should we take away his accolades because he played with some of the greatest wide receivers? Franco Harris was his running back. Should we take that away from him? Um, I just think it is a silly and I would say stupid argument to say because someone has a good supporting cast that therefore they do not deserve to be given recognition as a great player. To be great, you have to have others to be great. You
Hmm.
have to be with other great players. How many teams have had a good quarterback or an amazing quarterback, but they didn't have amazing talent around him and won? I don't know many. And I know people are going to throw out the Tom Brady comparison. Okay, stop. We're talking about the greatest quarterback of all time. Stop telling me that that's the bar because that is a stupid bar to compare it to. You know, Ben Roethlisberger had Jerome Bettis and Heinz Ward, two great, great, great players. Should we say that his Super Bowl against the Seahawks doesn't count because he had Jerome Bettis leading the way, rushing and pounding the ball? Or should we give him his props as a young player that he was able to clear a path in the playoffs? They were a wild card team and ran it all the way to the Super Bowl. I just so to Matthew Stafford, my point is people are looking at supporting cast as saying, "Oh, well, look at the talent he had. Look who he had surrounding him that helped him get to a Super Bowl. That's the only reason why he won a Super Bowl." No, it's not. It's a lazy argument, and you're just being simplistic because you don't like the fact that he's as high as maybe as he is in some people's lists. It's a dumb argument. He's a talented
Hmm.
quarterback, and if last year didn't make you a believer, nothing ever will. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just think it's silly to tell me the supporting cast is why you shouldn't be listed higher. It's dumb. Everyone's had supporting cast at some point helping them.
Yeah, I agree. Every NFL team has super duper good players. Every NFL team has that. Some NFL teams are slightly above others at certain positions. Yes, but if you're just being completely honest, the difference between let's just use a couple of receivers, Justin Jefferson and then like a Wan'Dale Robinson isn't a huge gap, honestly, as far as just pure talent of that player.
Yeah,
There's a lot of different other factors, system,
right,
the
right.
coaching,
Yep.
quarterback play, all that. Now, pure talent, Jefferson is a better player than Wilder Robinson, but it's not like a huge difference. That's what the point I was getting at. All these players are phenomenal athletes and players. So to say, like your argument that he only wants to book as a supporting cast, you still got to make the plays. You still got to read the defense. You still got to throw the ball, put it where it needs to go. And the other part is, what other quarterbacks could you put in that team and they would have that much success? Not that many,
Well,
honestly.
and the other part too is who did he beat to get to the Super Bowl and win it with the Rams? He beat Tom Brady.
Hmm.
Like I know this was the end of career Tom Brady, but that was still a good Buccaneers team.
Hmm.
And I think that did they play in Los Angeles for that game or was that game in Tampa? I think that game was in Tampa.
I don't remember. I don't remember. Um, but yeah, your argument stands. Um, well, so my 4 and 3, one quarterback you just mentioned, one you probably avoided like the plague because you hate his guts. That's going a little too far. That's a little too dramatic. But my number 4, multiple time regular season MVP. His team has won a lot of regular season games, has just come up short in the playoffs, And the playoff record is why you kept him out of your top 10. I can guarantee he's not 2 or 1 for you. 100% guarantee that he's not 2 or 1 for you. But he is a really good player. And one of those losses recently, like there's the first couple playoff losses, he has a lot of blame. I'm right there with you. But his most recent one against the Bills, certain tight end of his drops 2 key passes, and he himself had a phenomenal game. And one of those key passes would have won the game, and they would have gone, I think, to this. Was that the AFC Championship or the Super Bowl? I can't remember which one. It was the AFC Championship game. That if they won, they would have gone and played that game. But instead, Mark Andrews drops the ball for a 2 point conversion, and they lose to the Bills. And that's Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's my number 4 because if you look at his passing past few years with the supporting cast he has, we just mentioned supporting cast with Zay Flowers, who is a fine player, Mark Andrews, a fine player, but they're not on the level of some of these other guys. And he's had to do everything himself. All eyes are on him. And the year before that Bills loss, when they lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs, Zay Flowers dropped, he fumbled the ball on the 1 yard line, and he had a huge taunting penalty. That doesn't happen. The Ravens beat the Chiefs that year, and I think that's the Chiefs went to the Super Bowl. So not all his fault, but he is a phenomenal talent. He has a bad playoff record. I'm with you. That's why he's not higher on my list because he makes defenses like lose sleep at night. Phenomenal player. He is number 4 on my list. The number 3, you just talked about him, Joe Burrow. Everything you said, I'm right there with you. If he didn't have these injury concerns, I might have him 1, honestly, because I think, to me, he is the best passer of the football in this league. Like he can read defenses the best. He can make every throw. He is not scared of it. He is the best pure NFL passer in my opinion. But those injuries are the reason why I dropped him down to 3 because like you said, he has good playoff success. He was that close to having a ring. And it shows whenever he's hurt and whenever he's playing. The Bengals are a totally different team. Totally different team. I mean, there was that one year when he came back from injury and they were making a push to the playoffs, and no one wanted to see them in the playoffs because if they made the playoffs, they would have made a run to the Super Bowl possibly. They just came up short. So Joe Burrow is my 3. But Lamar Jackson's my 4. And I know you're probably got some feelings pent up right now.
I don't hate it. I just for me his playoff record was a big part of it, yes, but also his availability. Injuries has been a problem for him. So
Hmm. Oh, God bless you.
sorry, man. I allergies have just been going a little bit, but yeah, I just those two factors combined make it hard for me, and I
Yeah.
just felt like, oh man,
God bless you again.
goodness, sorry. I just felt like those two things combined made it hard for me. And I
Hmm.
felt like that. I mean, at some point, right? Like I came down to is Jared Goff supposed to be in the top 10 over Lamar Jackson for when I was looking at it, and I was like, has a better playoff record, has better stats. He does. He objectively over the past years has better stats than Lamar Jackson. When
Do
you
you
take
include
him,
the rushing?
well, yes, I get that. That is fair that you should include rushing in there. I still just have a hard time though with the fact that, and I know you talk about the people he's passing to, and it's true, but I would argue that he had last year and the year before the two best or the best tight end duo, likely
I don't
and
know.
Andrews.
Mark Andrews isn't the same guy he was 5 years ago. He's
Mark
now a
Andrews,
fine tight end, but he's not great.
I think
Just think
Isaiah
about fantasy
likely,
rosters. Just think about fantasy rosters. Was Isaiah Likely or Mark Andrews on anyone's starting tight end spot
no,
last year,
but
the year before?
I think that when you put them together, I think that that's the part that makes it a little tough. I don't think that you have that. I
Yeah,
feel like
but that's because of who else they have on that team to pass the ball to. If your best 2 targets are 2 solid
it's
tight ends,
It's
but
true. I do think that offensive coordinator, though, is a big issue. Roman,
sure,
this is
yeah.
known. He runs through his tight ends. That system is the way it works. It heavily, heavily depends on tight ends. So let's see what a new system looks like.
Yeah, but they still didn't pick up any receivers. I will say Jacoby Lane the guy they drafted in the third, fourth round. I have my eyes on him. He is very raw, very young. He probably should have played college for one more year, but he has a lot of talent. So we'll see if he can put it together. But they're not aggressive, even without this coaching staff. They still did. I mean, if they would have traded for AJ Brown, I'm like, oh, let's see what they can do now. But they didn't do that. They have just a fine cast, but nothing that scares you.
Yeah, I mean it's fair. I need to see more from Lamar Jackson. The other part I'm going to throw in there, and I think this is important, the Ravens had an easy division last year, and they still couldn't win the division. That was the easiest the division's going to be probably in the next 4 years, and they still
Hmm.
couldn't do it. And I think to some degree, Lamar Jackson deserves a knock on that. One for injury, and two for the fact
Hmm.
that he couldn't get the job done. They didn't just, not just losing the Steelers game last or winning the Steelers game last year was a problem. They just had games they couldn't finish. They lost to the Packers, and that was a big loss. And they should have beat the Packers. And so it's like, um, yeah, and it's just frustrating. I know that Huntley was in that
Yeah,
game. I know that that's part of it, and I understand that that affects it. I just think that availability has to be accounted for at some point.
sure.
And I don't think we've seen that from Lamar Jackson enough to be able to me put him in there. Dak Prescott has been available. Out of one season, he has been available. Jordan Love, injured, yes, but for the most part, when it comes crunch time, when it comes time to December football, I mean, what did our friend Steven talk about? Toyotathon. And Jordan Love comes storming in and becomes Toyotathon quarterback. But he does.
Hmm.
It's true. You look at the stats, he really does. Um, I just need to see more from Lamar. I could see why he should be higher. I probably should put him in there. I just need to see more from him. It's not just
Yeah,
it's not just postseason. He needs to play. And sometimes it's really hard to know, can he really not play? Or is it because of contract concerns, both now and in the past, for why he's not playing?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you. I just, I, I would pick Lamar Jackson over Jared Goff any day of the week. But I do hear your thoughts. Well, I believe our 2 and 1 are going to be the same guys. Maybe flip-flopped, who knows? But I think the two names are going to be the exact same. So, should we round out our top 10 with a certain quarterback from Buffalo and a certain quarterback from Kansas City?
I think that's fair. That's exactly what I had.
Hmm. What order do you have them in?
I put Mahomes at two, and I put Allen at one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, for me, it was a super coin flip. I go either way. If this was 2 years ago, it's not even a conversation. But lately, Allen has been playing so much better than Mahomes. But I still take in those Super Bowl wins. Allen hasn't gotten there yet. He has not gotten past Mahomes.
It's
That's the
true.
issue. He didn't have to go through Mahomes last year, and he still couldn't do it. So I put Allen 2, Mahomes 1. But again, that's like splitting hairs. They're both the best quarterbacks in this league overall. And if you have them on your team, you're always a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah. I mean, the part that's tough for me is I look at last season and I think it's an injustice to say it was just the supporting cast's fault, the reason why the Chiefs did not succeed last year. I think that Mahomes took a legitimate step back. And
Maybe. He also did get hurt, and I think if he didn't get hurt, they would have still been fighting for the wild card.
yeah, but it's like I think at some point the injury concern or the injury argument has to go away. It was so late in the year that if you're going to lean on the injury, I just think that that feels like a convenient narrative more than a truthful narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, there were games I could definitely think of it where Travis Kelce has a ball go through his hands and
Mm-hmm.
receivers drop the ball. And so I definitely think that those arguments are fair. Um, I just felt like that. I think if you asked Patrick Mahomes if he took a step back, I think he would say, I did take a step back. I did not play the way I knew I, or the way I knew I could
Mm-hmm.
play. And if you look at Josh Allen's year last year, he played about as well as he could all the way
Sure.
through. I don't know how much, like, I guess that was the hard part for my analysis. Josh Allen played about as well as he could all the way till the end.
Hmm.
He really maximized every game and every potential. I don't think Patrick Mahomes could say that. I don't think he could say that he maximized every game, every moment in terms like he played the best he could. There are some moments that weren't on him. The Eagles Chiefs game. Travis Kelce drops a pass that turns into an interception, changes the course of the game.
Hmm.
So supporting cast is definitely a concern. I think that Mahomes slipped a little bit. And so with the injury, and I think you have to account for the injury as far as what's he going to be like next year. I think that Allen is more likely at this point to have a better season next year. So that's how I landed in my
Yeah. If we're
2B1.
just looking at next year, absolutely. But I looked at the history from Mahomes, and
And that's fair.
Josh Allen has yet to beat him in the playoffs. When that happens, to me, that's a passing of the torch, and Allen's number one now. But Allen has not. And if Allen won the Super Bowl last year because there was no Mahomes, I would have put him at one. But until Allen gets a ring, I just can't do it because Mahomes has split three.
Yeah,
So I just can't. I can't do it. Can't do it.
it's fair. It's fair. And at that point, it really is splitting hairs. If you're not
Oh, for
putting,
sure.
well, the
Yeah.
part that I just am surprised by, how could you not put Patrick Mahomes in the top two category? You know,
Hmm.
you look at Chris Sims, you look at others, a lot of people are not putting him in the top two, and I think that that's ridiculous. Patrick
Yeah, and
Mahomes,
a lot of people have Sam Darnold in the top 10, which congrats to him for winning a Super Bowl. He did what he had to do. Complete props. There was two games specifically that he played well, both against the Rams, where if he didn't play well, they wouldn't have won. Props to him. Congrats. But he is not a top 10 quarterback right now.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see what the next year brings, though. Because I could see what you're saying about
Hmm.
Lamar Jackson. I could see what you're saying about Justin Herbert. The part that makes me frustrated, Andrew, and I am always going to say this because I think it's absolutely fair. If the league came as hard at Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert as they did at Jalen Hurts, I think I would be more likely to give those guys a little bit more props. But I just don't think it's equal. I don't think it's equal the way they look at every quarterback. I think Jordan Love gets more hate than respect, and he deserves more respect. I think that when it just feels so uneven to me. I think people care way too much about MVPs. They don't do anything for your team. Nothing. Your player winning MVP does not get you closer to a Super Bowl, does not get you a better seating in the playoffs. It is just a personal recognition. So yes, has Lamar Jackson won a couple MVPs? Yeah, and he deserved those. He had good moments. But crunch time, you need more. And I know that you could look at that 2 point conversion, but that game, there were moments that Lamar Jackson let his team down. And when your team doesn't win and you let your team down, you can't go around pointing fingers at other people. Everyone can look at someone at some point in the game and say, if you had just gotten that sack, if you had just gotten that interception, we would win
Hmm.
the game. Sure, you could say that argument. I just think that you got to be your best self at some point. And Lamar Jackson was really close for me being in the top 10 because when he when they almost beat the Steelers, I was like, okay, maybe he's finally turning a corner because this is the best I've seen him look in a crunch time
Hmm.
game where the game was on the line and you have to win. That was the best I felt like he played, but he didn't win. And it's like at some point, it's like, okay, when are you going to start holding this guy accountable and saying, like, he's not delivering in the big moments? They're not coming. So we'll see. Um, but interesting for sure. Definitely some interesting rankings. Can't disagree though with what you came up with. And Brock Purdy,
Hmm.
probably should have given him more respect, to be honest. So he definitely has had good moments.
Yeah. Maybe we should break down at some point our 11 through 20 because I have a feeling some of those names that were in that 8 to 10 range are going to show up but opposite on our end because honestly, like 8 to 15, again, it's like splitting hairs. So like just all of them are just that much apart. They just couldn't crack the top seven. But yeah, this was fun. We'll do the 17-0 game at some point because I think that'll be a lot of fun. And fantasy season's around the corner. We got to start talking about that. I think whenever July hits, that's when it's fantasy season, really, because that's when you have to do all your preparation, your mock drafts, all that fun stuff. But that's all we have for right now. This was fun. Thank you guys for joining us in this episode of the Gridiron Grind with Andrew and Lance. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and we will see you next time.
We'll see everybody. Hey, have a great fourth.
Yes, absolutely.